everybody, welcome into another video. I am Ty, and gonna be flying solo tonight. Should be a fun topic though. We're gonna talk about 2013, 10 years ago. These records we're gonna talk about are 10 years old, which is absolutely insane. That was a kind of a turning point in my life 10 years ago. I believe 2013 was when my then girlfriend, now wife, and I moved into our first apartment. And obviously some big changes were going on in my life. So these records were kind of the soundtrack to that. It's hard to believe that they're all celebrating their 10-year anniversaries. Time truly does fly by, man. In a blink of an eye, 10 years goes by. I do remember a lot of these like it was yesterday. A lot of these I was very hyped for. Some of these I'm coming to from after the fact and a little bit of hindsight. So it's interesting too, where a lot of these bands have gone and how their sounds have changed, and if they've gotten any bigger, or if they're broken up. I think a lot of these bands I'm going to show off are still together and still doing music, and some of them are very big. So yeah, 2013 was a crazy year, and it was a pretty good year for music for me too. I got a giant list of records. Not going to go through them all. I got about I think 7 or 8 records to actually talk about tonight. So this should be a quick one because I'm flying solo. So let's get right into it. Talk about the first record. First one we're going to show off is from Swedish black metal band Watain. This is The Wild Hunt. I remember when this record came out because it was pretty hyped, and I was pretty hyped for it because this is the follow-up to their 2020 or 2010 album, excuse me, Lawless Darkness. And that was a great record. Probably my favorite record they've ever done. And this one's probably up there, probably within the top 3 or 4, I'd say. But it's a pretty solid follow-up. Great album cover. If you don't know anything about Watain, they're a Swedish black metal band. Pretty much just straight up black metal. Usually pretty good productions on it. This one has a little airy production, which kind of fits the songs and the whole vibe. There's your back. And this is the Night Gatefold. I won't take it out. It's on an Oxblood vinyl. This is the kind of the most recent reissue you can pick up pretty much anywhere right now. A lot of their stuff is in press, which is nice. Yeah, they've been around since the late 90s. And this is their 2013 record, The Wild Hunt. I would say if you like black metal, you'd probably have heard of Watain. Check them out if you haven't. They put on a great live show. I've seen them multiple times. They're still going today. Just dropped a record last year, 2022, that I enjoyed quite a bit. They just dropped a live record too, like, I don't know, circa maybe a month or 2 ago. Could be wrong on that, but I know it was this year. So they're still doing things, still big, still on the festival circuit. They're headlining festivals, and they usually do headlining dates in the States every album cycle. So yeah, I've seen them quite a few times, and The Wild Hunt is a great record. And I just remember being so hyped for it, and it did live up to the hype. They Rode On is a really cool song. It doesn't really fit anything they've ever done before. It's a ballad. Kind of a slow plodding ballad, but just a cool vibe of a song. For sure. It's got those biker gang vibes to it. Outlaw is a really cool song on here. Black Flames March is a cool song. All That May Bleed. There's some cool tracks on here. So not as good as the record that preceded it, but still a really, really cool record. Watain with The Wild Hunt. I'm just going to pull them off the stack here, so I don't really know what's coming up next. All right, this kind of fits. Coming from Watain, we got Rotting Christ with Kataton Ammonia Iotoi. I butchered that. They're a Greek. We're a Greek black metal band. They're still together, but this record is not black metal at all. Like they're probably, I don't know, last 20 years of output really doesn't resemble their early raw black metal days. I mean, they were the pioneers of Greek black metal, and this record is hard to describe. It's very, very heavy. It's got some cultural influences on here. A lot of their stuff brings in like Greek cultural references and themes. This record kind of captures totally like different, many different cultures throughout. So it's very their sound is of its own. Trying to describe Rotting Christ right now is really hard. It's very epic, very bombastic, a lot of big drumming, chants, like kind of that, like kind of like war vibey songs. Like if you're gonna watch like Game of Thrones or something, or like Lord of the Rings, like these are good soundtracks for that type of stuff. Very heavy, very, very heavy, not like death metal brutal heavy, but just like very epic heavy, very big riffs and production, and very cool band. So this is their 2013 album. This is a stellar album top to bottom. They do a Venom cover on here as a bonus track. I would suggest if you want to get into this type of stuff, this is a good starting point. It's a very, very fun listen, a solid record to grab if you want to get into any type of Rotting Christ. It's definitely more easily accessible than their early black metal stuff, which is very raw, which I like too. But this is a totally different vibe. I think many different people can get into this type of stuff, whether you're into metal or not. So check this record out, Rotting Christ, with their 2013 album, Kataton Ammonia Eotoi. I butchered that. I think it stands, I think it translates to English, do what thou will, I think, or do what that shall or something, if I remember right. This is a really cool listen, though. Check it out. All their stuff is in press, too. It's really easy to get. Season of Mist keeps pumping them out. I see them in the record stores constantly, and you can get them online. So check them out if you want some epicness of Greek metal proportions. Like, I don't even really know how to describe them anymore. Early black metal, but now they're just more of like a metal band, kind of like a Rammstein vibe, but not industrial. I guess that's a good explanation. I don't know. So Rotting Christ, there you go. So moving on. Let's see here. This is a fun one. Queensryche with their self-titled album. And this is a crazy year for Queensryche, because this is when Jeff Tate left, and Jeff Tate actually dropped a Queensryche record the same year as this. Called FU, which is an awful record. I definitely advise against listening to that record. To me, it barely resembles a Queensryche record, other than it has Jeff's voice. So this is the first record Queensryche did with Todd La Torre, and Todd is a great singer. I think he's an awesome frontman. And the funny part about it is he was a drummer, and he met Michael Wilton, the guitar player from Queensryche, one of the guitar players. He met Michael as a drummer. They were doing a project, and Todd was supposed to be the drummer. And then they were, and then Michael realized this dude can really, really sing. And he found a video of him singing old Queensryche stuff. And that's when he showed Eddie Jackson, and then Scott Rockenfeld was still in the band at the time too. That's when he showed him and said, we should do this. So he brought in Todd to Queensryche, and Todd does a great job. This is a good record. I think the records with Todd have gotten better as they've gone along. Digital Noise Alliance, that came out last year, is one of my favorite Queensryche records in years. I've played that thing nonstop since it's come out. It's a great, great album. But yeah, this is very good. They're kind of less in the prog realm now and more just in the straight up kind of hard rock, heavy metal realm, with some traces of their old influences still there. I would say if you gave up on Queensryche, definitely check this era out. I probably wouldn't start here. I would probably start with the newest record, Digital Noise Alliance. I think that record's excellent. The production on it is great. I mean, the production on this record is really good too. I think Zeus has done all of the records, I'm pretty sure, that Todd has been on. But this is the first one, Queensryche self-titled. It's funny that they're doing a self-titled so late, but I guess it's supposed to be like the reset, hitting the reset button for the band, bringing in Todd and, splitting with Jeff and all the drama that came with that. So I really like this record, though. Really good production, just good hard rock, heavy metal with some tinges of their old self thrown in sometimes. But don't start here. If you want to dive into the Todd era, start with the newest record, Digital Noise Alliance, and then I should just go backwards because honestly, they just get better from here. Each record with Todd has got subsequently better as they've gone along. So Queensryche with their 2013 album, Queensryche, made the list tonight. And next, we have a great record, a record that got me into this band, and that's Carcass with Surgical Steel. Carcass is an old, kind of grindcore death metal band from England back in the day. Really short songs, kind of like Napalm Death, really gory lyrics, that type of stuff. And then as they went along, they got more melodic and kind of put more like emphasis on the melody and emphasis more on like riffing and more emphasis on kind of a rock sensibility, kind of like a death and roll. And then they went away and they were gone for I want to say like 15 years or something like that. And then they dropped this in 2013, and this is their comeback record, Surgical Steel. Absolutely love this record. This is the record that got me into the band because I remember it being so hyped when it was coming out. Everybody was going crazy online about, oh my God, Carcass is back together. They're doing an album. This is going to be crazy. And I remember hyping it up, and to me, it lived up to the hype. I still listen to this record quite a bit. I know a lot of like older Carcass fans weren't too thrilled with the direction of the band, but honestly, like this is where they were going anyway, towards the end of their original run. They are still doing things. They just had a record drop. I want to say it was last year, Torn Arteries. I'm pretty sure it was 2022. That was very good. But for my money, this is the best thing they've done since getting back together. And I think they've only done this and Torn Arteries. I don't think there was anything in between. So there was like a 9-year wait between albums again. So, but they've still been doing things, doing tours. I actually saw them last year or earlier. Was it earlier this year or last year? I think it was last year, opening for Amon Amarth, which is a great show. And they were awesome. It was really cool to see Carcass. They're legends. And if you want to get into their new stuff, it's more like just straight up melodic death metal, thrashy at times as well. They do a really good job. And I've always dug their aesthetic. They kind of got their vibe. One of the main guys, I can't remember. One of their sisters was in medical school, and they stole her textbooks, and that's how they got like song titles and lyrics and stuff. And they just kind of kept that theming throughout their careers. So I really dig it. Carcass with Surgical Steel from 2013. This is an awesome album. If you want to listen to something more melodic, death metal-y, check this out for sure. Also, Torn Arteries, their newest record's really good too. So Carcass with Surgical Steel. Next up, we got one that I have a lot of nostalgia for. This one is signed, and I have a lot of this guy's discography signed. So Frank Turner with Tape Deck Heart. Got into Frank Turner from Tyler, and just kind of instantly dug him. Kind of folky punk guy, comes from the hardcore scene, so his music is not like punk at all. I would just say more folky. One guy on acoustic guitar. He does have a band, the Sleeping Souls, but it's mostly just him and a guitar for most of the music. So it's very folky, does have some punk rock vibes still though. So this is Tape Deck Heart from 2013, signed by the man himself, Frank Turner. And if you don't know Frank, like I said, kind of folk punk stuff. This record is more of the same. Really, really good record. I have a lot of nostalgia for this record. I listened to it a ton when it came out. I haven't really followed a lot of Frank's kind of modern releases. I would say within like the last 4 or 5 years, I've just kind of fallen off, which I need to go back. It's a shame how that just happens to some artists. Leave a comment down below if that happens with any artist that you listen to. Like you're really into them for a while, and then for whatever reason you just fall off. Like I get that way with bands if they release a ton of music And Frank didn't really do that, but sometimes I don't know, just short attention span. I just kind of move on to something else. But the records that I adore, I absolutely adore, and this is a really good record. Check out The Way I Tend to Be. Recovery is a really good song. Polaroid Pictures, a pretty cool song. Just really introspective, heartfelt type of stuff. And he's a good musician too, and a very good songwriter. And I would say underrated. He's definitely getting bigger. I know he was on the Counting Crows tour over here in the States. He was opening for them. So I imagine that was probably a pretty big deal and got him in front of a pretty large new audience. So Frank's still out there doing shows. I think he's a road dog, man. He'll always be on the road. So Frank Turner, Tape Deck Heart, great record. Check it out if you want something more mellow, folky, punk rock vibes. There you go. Next up is another record that I was absolutely very, very hyped for. And that's Ghost with their sophomore album, Infestissimum. Infestissimum. I've never really known how to pronounce it. But anyway, if you don't know Ghost, kind of I guess like a classic rock vibe band with like kind of Kiss elements with hidden identities. They're one of the biggest bands in the world today as far as it goes to rock music. So you've probably have heard of Ghost. This is their follow-up. I find it funny because it's the only record with Ghost BC. They got in some trouble with another band named Ghost, and eventually they got the name because the other albums just went right back to just being Ghost. They dropped the BC from it. So that's kind of an oddity when this comes record. This one is signed. It's signed to my wife, actually. She got this one signed, and I have the debut signed by them as well. This one I got when it came out. The debut I got when it came out. I was in on Ghost at the beginning. I don't want to sound like that type of fan, but I really, truly was. And I still love Ghost. I still, their music is always interesting to me. And I know a lot of people got turned off when they started changing their sound, and they started changing their sound on this record. I re-listened to it over this last week, kind of prepping for this episode. And this record is almost like swing jazzy vibes at times. I mean, there is some harder songs in here, like Year Zero is a pretty heavy song, especially in Ghost terms. I wouldn't say like heavy overall, but for them, it's a pretty heavy song. I still love Year Zero, but like Gula and Zombie Queen, that record has some like swing to it. Gigolo Har Megado, that song is kind of swingy. Secular Haze is kind of has like a weirdo vibe, jazzy vibe almost to it. Monstrance Clock is like kind of very like swingy. It's just like kind of a swing rock record to me. It's very strange. So like anybody who complains that they were changing their sound and doing different things, like they were doing it since the beginning. Like this record sounds a lot different than the debut. There is some songs that you could put on the debut, but not a ton. They were definitely experimenting with the sound already. And that's what Tobias likes to do. So I applaud him for that. Kind of do what you want to do. And honestly, no Ghost record sounds 100% like the last. I remember being extremely hyped for this record. This record got me through a lot of days at work, having this on the headphones and listening to it in the office. And for that, I will always remember it. Not when I go back too often by Ghost. I'd rather listen to the debut or even Meliora or even the newest record. But I still love quite a few songs on here, quite a bit. And I know a lot of these they still play live. So Ghost with Infestissimum, their second album, came out in 2013. It's crazy that this is 10 years. They did do an anniversary pressing for this. This is an original pressing from 2013. But yeah, they did do an anniversary pressing of this with some bonus stuff. I'm pretty sure they did a box set of it as well. They're always doing stuff. They're good at that type of stuff, promotion and making people buy multiple things. So yeah, Ghost with their sophomore album. I will always remember this fondly. Have a ton of nostalgia for this, man. Alrighty, next up, we're gonna go with a record that I kind of discovered after the fact. That's Halloween with Straight Out of Hell. So we get some of the great CGI covers I use great in quotation marks. DJI covers of the Andy Darris era, when he was, and he's still fronting the band, but when he was solo fronting the band, I should say. Um, I know a lot of people fell off on Halloween. German power metal. I always kind of equate them to German Iron Maiden. They're not really, they don't have like Maiden sound, but as far as like influence and lasting, just staying power, that's my greatest comparison. As far as music, they're power metal. So like look up power metal and you're going to see Halloween first. And they've always kind of remained the same throughout their career with some varying kind of branches, so to speak, and some missteps along the way. But the Darris era is mostly just like straight up hard rock and power metal, and this record is no different. All the Darris records are a little long. They suffer from that modern, like everything's got to be 70 minutes plus. We got to fill the CD up, but this is a good record. All the Darris stuff is, and I know a lot of fans kind of fell off on the band. When Darris started fronting the band in the 90s, and a lot of them never came back. I would suggest you come back because their last record is one of the best records they have ever done. And that brought back Michael Kiske and Kai Henson to the band, two former frontmen, and Kai Hansen, the founding member of the band, one of the founding members. So they brought them back for the new record, self-titled Halloween, which was great. It's an amazing record. One of my favorite records of the last probably 10, 20 years. But this is their 2013 one, Straight Outta Hell, like I said. And it's a fun one. It's a fun one. It's not as good as their most recent record. And honestly, a lot of the Darris era, especially this time, it all kind of starts sounding samey. But it's very competent and well done. It's good, happy, fun music, and I would suggest checking it out. If you want some power metal and you kind of gave up on this era, check this record out. You might dig it. Or try one of the other Andy albums out. Like a lot of people don't give that dude credit, and he deserves credit, man. He held it down. He's been the frontman for a long time in that band and held it down and could sing those songs very well, the old songs and his songs. And honestly, it takes a dude with a very small ego to bring back a former lead singer and then the former founding member, also a former lead singer, to the band and stay in the band and do basically like an all-star tour. It would be, for all intents and purposes, it would be like if Van Halen ever did do the tour with David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar, and they shared the stage. So that's kind of the same vibes. Obviously, way smaller than that, but that's the apt comparison as far as egos and just setting shit aside and loving the music and doing a proper celebration. So my wife and I saw them last year. It was amazing. One of the best shows I've ever seen in Vegas. It was so much fun. If they ever come back to the States again, I will happily go see Halloween. So Halloween, Straight Outta Hell, from straight out of 2013. Great record. Check it out. All right, we're nearing the end of this list. This one is an interesting one. It's not my favorite record on the list, but Goo Goo Dolls with Magnetic. Love the album cover. This record is very, very, very poppy. Their whole kind of modern output has been very poppy in the 2000s, I would say. I mean, obviously, A Boy Named Goo and Dizzy Up the Girl are very poppy as well, but these records are very bubblegum pop. I don't hate it. It has its moments and it has its place. So I figured I'd throw it in the list just to kind of change it up here because it was a big record for me. I remember being pretty hyped. I remember kind of being disappointed in it. Boxes is a way better record than this. If you want a modern Goo Goo Dolls record, check out Boxes. But Magnetic is fun too. If you just want a nice pop, easy listening record, check it out. This is a repress they did in like 2019. It's got a lime green vinyl, which looks pretty cool. So yeah, Goo Goo Dolls, Magnetic. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's a fine record. I didn't want to just talk about glowingly all these records the whole time. So, but if you want kind of a modern pop Goo Goo Dolls record, you can't go wrong with this. But Boxes is where it's at. That's probably my favorite modern Goo Goo Dolls record for sure. Alrighty, last up here, as far as stuff that I pulled, oh, just hit the desk there. Volbeat with Outlaw Gentlemen and Shady Ladies. So, if you don't know about Volbeat, they are a kind of rockabilly, psychobilly, heavy metal band, and they're from Denmark. And Michael Paulsen, the main guy in the band, was in a death metal band prior to founding Volbeat in the early 2000s. And this was a way to kind of get another side of his musical identity out there. Kind of similar to Tobias Forge and Ghost that we talked about earlier. Tobias did the same thing. Tobias was in a death metal band, and then they founded Ghost, and Ghost was an outlet for like their 70s kind of rock, love, like, BOC stuff and kind of Merciful Fate and that type of stuff. And Volbeat was kind of the same way. Like, Michael's in Johnny Cash and Elvis and, that 50s era rock. And he's obviously into Metallica and, a lot of thrash and stuff too, and a lot of death metal. So they kind of took this and combined it all into one. And I always dug Volbeat because of their aesthetic. They've always this is a record that they kind of ditched the gold theming. They have a little bit of gold theming here, but a lot of the records earlier before this all had gold, kind of a black and gold aesthetic. And I always dig bands like that. That's why I love Typo Negative, because all their records have a similar vibe to them, and you instantly know, okay, that's Typo Negative. Whether even you see the band name on the album or not, what you're getting into just based on the aesthetic of the album. Volbeat kind of had a similar thing going. This is kind of when they started straying from that. I do like a lot of the earlier Volbeat records a little bit more than this. I re-listened to this quite a few times, and this is kind of where I fell off of the band. A lot of it's getting too long, little samey, like I said earlier about one of the other bands, I can't remember, but you're kind of getting into like samey vibes where every record's sounding the same. The records are kind of overly long. This one is still good. There's still a lot of good songs on here, and I've kind of fallen off on the band. I would say like their last like 3 or 4 records I really haven't listened to, maybe just singles here and there or catching something on the radio, because they did get pretty big and did started getting like terrestrial radio play, especially here, which is pretty surprising. They got a pretty big push here, and they're still doing things and still pretty big. Michael Paulsen just started actually a new death metal band and released a record this year that is very good, that I actually just discovered doing research for this episode, that I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't know this happened, because I was listening to it today, and I'm like, damn, this is a good record. This could potentially made that my top 10 list, which I already did. You can check that out on the channel for 2023. So yeah, Michael Paulsen has a new death metal band going on alongside Volbeat now. But this record, like I said, if you want something that's like this record too has a lot of Western vibes. So if you want something more Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley mixed in with like hard rock and metal, check out Volbeat. You'd probably dig them. I would go maybe a record or two before this. My favorite record is Guitars Cadillacs. Is it Guitar Cadillacs and Gangsters? Hold on. Quick search. Why don't I know this? I was just listening to this record. Guitar Cadillacs and Guitar Gangsters and Cadillac Blood. I'm trying to do the Dwight Yoakam album. So Guitar Gangsters and Cadillac Blood. That's probably my favorite Volbeat record. That's from 2008. If I remember right. And this is 2013. So this is kind of when I fell off of the band. But check it out. This record has a lot of Western vibes. And honestly, it's got Black Bart is a song on here. The Lonesome Rider, Doc Holliday. So they're taking like old Western movies and tales and combining them into their songs. And I think it fits. It vibes with their music really well. Dead But Rising they're really good singles band. They can really write a good kind of earworm catchy hit for the radio. Dead But Rising was that one. King Diamond features on here on a song, Room 24, fellow Danish musician. They have really good guess a lot of the time. One of their prior records, they had Barney from Napalm Death on kind of a straight up ish death metal song. It kind of comes out of nowhere on the record. And they've had Neil Fallon from Clutch on a record, a bunch of people. So they always do guest songs, do guest artists really well. And Room 24 featuring King Diamond is a really, really cool song because Michael's voice and King's voice are the polar opposites, and they create a really cool juxtaposition throughout that song. Lola Montez, that's probably my favorite song on here. That's probably the biggest song on here. Lonesome Riders got a really cool, like, westerny vibe beat to it. Like, this record is a good record to play. Like, if you're playing Red Dead Redemption 2, you want some music in the background, check out Volbeat, Outlaw Gentlemen, and Shady Ladies. So anyways, guys, that is 2013. A lot of good records. A lot of fun memories. Saw a ton of shows back then too. Like I said, was moving into my first apartment, so just a lot of change in my life going on. And music is always that soundtrack to your life. Like, I have a ton of memories and a ton of songs that will trigger memories in my head when the songs come on, and takes me back to a different time. That's why I love music. It's a time machine. It truly is. And then when you get so far down these records, I mean, these records are 10 years old. I remember when these records came out, like it was yesterday. And like I said, when I listen to them, you just get the warm and fuzzies inside. You remember good times. You remember bad times too. It just brings you back. I love doing these episodes because it's like a time machine. It allows me to go back and kind of catch up on bands too. Like when I was listening to Volbeat, I was listening to a lot of their newer stuff too, and trying to catch up because like this type of stuff allows me to do that. So I dig it. Some of the other stuff that came out, Alice in Chains put out Devil Put Dinosaurs here. I have that on CD over there. That record's good. I've kind of fallen off on it when we did our Alice in Chains ranking. I don't think it ranked that well for me, honestly. Check the tape, though. Black Sabbath with 13. I do not like Black Sabbath 13. That was pretty low on my Black Sabbath ranking. You could check that out on the channel as well. Pearl Jam with Lightning Bolt. I remember liking that record quite a bit when it came out, but I haven't really gone back to it, so I don't know. French-Canadian death metal band Gorguts, I believe, came back too with Colored Sands. I believe that's their comeback record. So you had Carcass and Gorguts, which is a very big deal as far as the like death metal world. In Solitude, they're kind of like they were kind of like a straight up, very much like a Merciful Fate clone, kind of like a harder version of Ghost. They released their final album, Sister. I absolutely loved In Solitude. Saw them live, I think a couple times. Skeleton Witch, blackened thrash metal band, did Serpents Unleashed that year. That's a cool record. Sodom, German thrash metal band, Epitome of Torture. Pretty cool record. I like most of the modern Sodom output. A Pale Horse Named Death, if you're into Typo Negative. That is Sal's, the original drummer. That is his band, I believe still going today. I know Sal had an interesting comments about the Typo guys and the celebration of Bloody Kisses, I think, and Life is Killing Me and stuff, and interesting comments from him. But Monomarth also did Deceiver of the Gods, which might be their last like really great record, in my opinion. I don't own it. I own a lot of Monomarth, but I need to get that one because I do enjoy that record quite a bit. So yeah, there was a lot of good records in 2013 for me. Trivium, Vengeance Falls. Don't own that one. I kind of fell off Trivium probably around then. Avantasia, The Mystery of Time. Really good kind of power metal, epic rock super group. It's kind of like a rock opera project done by Tobias from Edguy, another power metal band that he did. Avantasia is basically his main band now. Edguy doesn't even really exist anymore, which is a shame because I like Edguy way more than Avantasia. But The Mystery of Time, that 2013 record is a pretty solid record as well, which did get a 10th anniversary pressing. So yeah, a lot of different stuff here. in here for me. You know, metal, kind of alternative pop. A lot of classic bands, a lot of newer bands. Rock was still in a pretty good place in 2013. Honestly, this kind of proves that. You have a lot of legacy acts, newer bands, sophomore albums, and some of these bands have come on to be very big, like Ghost and Volbeat. So yeah, 2013. What are some of your favorite albums of 2013? Leave a comment down below. I always love doing these. Usually we do like the kind of world events and what's been happening, what was happening in 2013. Kind of felt weird to do that by myself tonight. But I definitely want to talk about the music, and that's what we do here. We talk about music. So if you want to talk about music with us, hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below. My goal here for next year is 500 subs. So if you want to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification about all that stuff, hang out with us. We talk about records here. We talk about music and just vibe out and kind of get nostalgic with it sometimes and talk about 10-year-old records that shouldn't be 10 years old because it's absolutely insane how time flies. But anyways, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.